Um, so yeah, as introduced, the project is lot 26 here at the intersection of Ross, Gray, and Weber Lane in a triangular site. Most of you are familiar with this project from presentation about a month ago, which is allowing a 16-story tower and 3-story townhomes along the lane with a permitted FSR of 3.5 FSR, the site area of 48,000 square feet, and a permitted net area of 168,000 square feet. The stats will be available in the package to review in further detail. The presentation here proposes the same number of units and generally the same arrangement as previously. So I want this presentation to focus on many of the positive changes that we've made since the last presentation. And this package largely reflects the presentation at the design panel last Thursday. So the general form of development for the site was to take that 16-story volume and 3-story townhome volume to orient that on the site consistent with the setback along Gray Avenue and to open up a courtyard facing towards Ross Drive. We felt like it was important to open up sight lines to neighboring projects and to let the project breathe at the intersection of Ross and Gray. And so we've introduced this pivot, which also allows us to create the entry for the main residential. We've then taken the tower separation from the neighboring Nobel residences at Nobel Park, set back the tower, the minimum 30-meter tower separation, and then split that length in two to break up the massing on that short side. We think there's a great opportunity for views all around the site, but in particular, facing onto the courtyard with views out to the ocean and beyond was a prioritizing factor in our decision to locate cores towards the Gray side of the building, opening up those views beyond. And then our key design party has been one of the building interfacing with this unique position that Wesbrook has, which is both facing the city and its urban context, but also embracing that nature. And that becomes this duality upon which the building is split along its long axis. Facing the urban side, we really want to articulate the verticality. We've introduced these slots and breaks in the massing to break down that long face, in addition with that hinge, which also helps to reduce the overall length of perceived massing. And then to really have the building embrace that kind of that opportunity to embrace nature, to embrace the ocean with a canted balcony expression, which also gives way to this sort of curtain that peels back to reveal the residential entry. And then on the other side, we express a more horizontal expression. Again, we use balconies, privacy screens to break up that massing, introduce a playful rhythm, which we feel is really about embracing those views, increase livability as the main aspect of that nature party. So based on feedback we got from the pre-application AUDP and further comments, this is a brief summary of the main changes we've made. We felt like we really wanted to articulate that verticality. So we've removed that somewhat artificial 6-story brick base, which we think has really strengthened that response to the party. In response to some of the concerns about thermal bridging and sustainability, we've reduced some of the cantilevering balconies on the upper floor, which also, again, accentuates our verticality by removing some of that top-heavy nature of the design. In terms of materials, we had a response that maybe some of the materiality could be brought around from the nature side onto the urban side, so that there's a consistent, uniform approach to materiality while still respecting the two different architectural natures of that. One of the primary ways we're achieving that is a perforated metal screen, which we have in a sort of bronzy champagne color. And we think that there could be two different textures that could be applied, which respect those that urban side and that nature side, one which is maybe more geometric or rectilinear in pattern, and one which is more organic, circular, and so forth. In terms of the relation of the city home to the tower, we wanted the material language to be consistent so that it really integrates the townhomes into the tower design. The city homes have moved from a concrete design, which we initially envisaged, to a wood frame, and we think that's certainly an enhancement from a sustainability point of view. Here we've just also aligned the setback of the townhomes with the tower, which is allowing a planting buffer and adequate at-grade bicycle parking. We've looked into that street setback relationship. One of the primary motivations for the location of the tower was that we can get the core locations, the drive aisle, and an efficient parking layout, which is kind of dictating where our cores are, and then obviously livability of the units above. And we think that this setback is in keeping with or is consistent with the intent of both the neighbors. And so on the left, we have the tower relationship, the middle, we have the city home relationship, and then a neighboring project, lot 29, just up the road there, just to show that it's relatively consistent. And so within the parkade, we've tried our best to locate as much bike parking and accessible features on the P1. And then we go down to 3 levels of underground parking. On the floor plan, we've looked to elongate some aspects of the floor plate, which has allowed greater livability of the units in response to previous comments. We've also enabled some of those, the left-hand side of the floor plan below to expand in width a little bit, just to remove pinch points and improve the overall livability of the units. On the upper floors, we've put more design development into ensuring that we have a range of 3-bedroom, larger bedroom units on that top floor. And then all around the building, we're taking kind of greater care to ensure that there are any unnecessary slab extensions are removed, that we're paying greater attention to the overall energy efficiency, and that will be reflected in further development with the energy model as the design progresses. Again, I think there's some improvements from a sustainability perspective in terms of moving to the wood frame on the townhomes and the removal of those cantilever balconies. And then just a number of SEPTED-related responses in terms of maximizing the activation of the ground floor plane. We've kind of got a pathway that leads from Ross to Grey along Weber Lane with the active frontages of the city homes, activated frontage with a highly glazed amenity that wraps around that intersection of Grey and Ross, and a double height entry lobby with all of those standard security fob access entry phones to the parkade that you would expect. And so, yeah, generally the material expression has remained the same since the last time that the project was reviewed, which is this articulation through a window wall system with a muted, simple, largely monochromatic composite aluminum metal panel, and then this accent color which comes through as the balcony privacy screen. And again, another simple, but again with a bit more warmth to reflect that natural side facing the courtyard. Explorations again into what that perforation might be and how we might approach the 2 different sides of the building with 2 different material approaches. And then, yeah, just shadow studies. What we really feel is the orientation provides a decent amount of daylighting in that central courtyard space throughout the day. And then just an overview, which I'm happy to go back to if any questions arise for the general arrangement of the floor plans. And then the elevations calling out those materials. The Grey Avenue siding with that vertical expression and monochromatic difference between the light and dark. And the curved side here facing the courtyard. Sections of the building showing its relationship to the street and the setbacks. And then, how we're trying to attempt to minimize the impact of that parkade entry facing Ross Drive through bringing that concrete slab out as far as possible so that the entry is concealed, creating a landscape berm, which Sarah from HAPA can talk more about, and any future sort of screening techniques we can to better integrate that into the project as a whole. Again, happy to go back to any of these in the future, but just some 3D imagery. I think that is, yeah, that's the final image from architecture. Thank you.
Yes, so can everyone see this now and hear me? Okay. I'll just go through this really quickly because a lot of no really major changes and so the organization of the entrances, the parking access, and so yeah, we have these nice kind of through pathways through the site, a general kind of hills around the edge and kind of valleys in the usable spaces sort of conceptually. Um, we've developed a planting plan that has a lot of focus on more native plants around the edge and kind of more pollinator friendly plants in the middle. Um, I think it has a lot of habitat and pollinator value, but obviously the sort of native plants would be maintained a little bit more um, neatly than an actual forest, but they still would have that habitat value. Um, the trees framing entrances. So yeah, the main focus of the landscape is this internal backyard park-like space, communal space with a small tot play area, a trellis, a lot of seating, a fire circle, and this sort of deck that could be used for dining. And then we've created this little kind of public mini plaza at the lobby entrance. And of course, this little pathway along Weber Lane that has the nice access to this nice landscape feature. Um, I guess just to what else to point out? All the through public, semi-public pathways are less than 5% and there's no steps, so they are a accessible, gentle way through. Um, and yeah, generally the stormwater the site is fairly well planted, but stormwater that falls on paved areas is mostly trying to be directed into planting areas as much as possible. I think that's all I wanted to point out. Um, but if you have any more questions about the specific plants or anything, I can go back. Lighting, so mostly achieved through lights set into the walls through the site, and then some sections. And that's it.